Hello, gorgeous people. How are we doing? Say hello as you hop on and join me. Tell me how you're doing today. Even if you're on replay, I would love to hear from you. I would love to hear how you're finding this, whether it is giving you some aha moments, whether it has allowed you to see perhaps some patterns you want to break, whether it is giving you some insight into aspects of yourself that you've just been taking for granted and you've forgotten how magical they are and how powerful those superpowers are that you do possess. I would love to know. I'd love to know what's come through for you so far. But bear with me because I am going to try and tag everyone in the group to let them know that we're live. So that will give you a chance to say hello and tell me how you're doing. There I am, pinned featured. Let's see if I can get this to work today. Hey, it's giving me the option. We are now live for day 3. Yeah. It's amazing how quick you can type when you need to. Oh, I say that. Maybe not. There we go. So, Louise, gorgeous. How are you doing? Hope you're having a gorgeous day. Hope you have had fun with the workbook. I know, Louise, you have, because you've been messaging me about what's been coming up for you. So that's lovely to hear from you. So today, day 3 is about taking us from a place of perhaps spending a little bit too much time in our shadow and moving more into our superpower. So the truth is, though, there will be times when we find ourselves in the shadow. There will be times when we find ourselves getting pulled into that. But the more awareness we have, the more conscious we are of our behavior, of our thoughts that come before the behavior, the more able we are to spend more of that energy, more of that time in our superpowers. Hi, Fran, gorgeous. Lovely to have you with me. Hope you are enjoying the week. Louise, you spent hours writing stuff yesterday. Wow, didn't expect it to be hours. Though I would love to know what came through. So hopefully, yes, yesterday you took the time to do the homework, to look at those questions, because, you know, we don't want to just, what am I trying to say here? We don't want to just put ourselves in a box and then go, that's it. Because that's not true, right? We can be many different things. We can experience all of those superpowers. We can experience all of those shadows. But if we can get underneath, if we can find the why, then it certainly helps in terms of breaking that pattern and creating change for moving forward. So today, I want to take you through the best practices that are going to be aligned to the different archetypes and explain a little bit about why this is. I've also assigned a mantra for each of the archetypes, which will help them pull out of that shadow side and step more fully into their superpower. So I hope that sounds good to you. What I do need to say is that when it comes to Ayurveda, we don't normally deal with the mind as a separate entity. So although I'm giving suggestions here from a mind perspective, you know, I want to just, you know, make it clear that from an Ayurvedic lens, we also need to pay attention to what is the energetics of the food we're eating. Do they align with our archetype? Are there any herbs that we can use to support us? What type of movement are we doing? What is our lifestyle like energetically? So all of those things we would normally consider in Ayurveda. Obviously, I'm not going to have time to go through the energetics of everything, but I have put together the practices that will give you 50% of the medicine at least. This will take you a huge step forward if you just do these 1 things or 2 things that we're going to go through today. So hopefully that sounds good to you. Bear with me while I share the workbook for today. How do I do that? Oh, no, clicking on the wrong thing. Don't want to do that. Here we go. And I'm hoping there's not too many spelling mistakes, because I won't lie, I did most of this, or like finished most of this last night. So if there is spelling mistakes, bear with me. It's not because I don't care, it's because time is a little bit limited. So our copper ladies, let's start with you first. So the mantra that I've really tried to tap into that energy of copper and find a phrase that is going to pull you out of that shadow and into that superpower. And the mantra that I came up with is, I alone am responsible for my happiness. I alone am responsible for my happiness. And this is a beautiful reminder that you get to look after you. You get to take care of you. You get to do things just because they feel good for you, not because they're serving someone else, not because you're helping someone else, not because, that person wants to do it or it's an opportunity to spend time with that person. This is about putting you back in your power and allowing you to really understand that only you are responsible for your happiness. No one else can make you happy. That starts from within, right? We all know this. So I've broken down like what would be a beginner practice to start putting in place, what would be the next step from that, and what would be advanced. So I've broken this down into each of the different archetypes. So you each have your own set of practices and a little journey that you can take yourself through in order to get that kind of boost from the shadow into the superpower. So at the beginner level, the first thing to put in place as a copper lady is a daily self-care practice. Now, what that looks like is completely up to you. That could be meditation, that could be breath work, that could be chanting, that could be going for walks in nature, that could be dancing around your kitchen for 10 minutes a day like a crazy person, that could be singing at the top of your voice, that could be what else have I got here? Mindful movement. Mindful movement is a beautiful way that we can check in with ourselves. And movement is particularly useful for copper energy. If we think about that copper energy being quite heavy. So as you're thinking about your daily self-care practice, try and think about things that are going to have an invigorating effect on you if you're doing it in the morning. Obviously, if you're doing it at nighttime, you're going to want a different energy. You're going to be wanting to call in a different energy. But things like say chanting is a fabulous one for copper. So although it may not feel like you're moving a lot, you're moving the energy as you chant. Or singing is another great one to start shifting some of that stagnancy that can happen with that copper energy. So that might be stagnancy in the mind, stagnancy in the body, that feeling of heaviness in the mood. It can be a great way to lift that and shake it up. The next step, which is going to feel a little bit tougher, is setting clear boundaries with those you care about and expressing your needs. Now, I can imagine a lot of copper ladies are thinking that is my worst nightmare. Generally, copper people don't like saying no, right? If someone asks you to do something, yeah, that's fine. I'll do it. I'll work through my lunch break. I'll stay late at work despite the fact you're not going to pay me anything extra. I'll do the job of someone else at work, even though really they should be doing it. You might find that at the moment you skip meals in order to do things for other people, or you don't tell your boss, or you don't raise it as an issue with your boss if you have too much work to do. It could be in relationship that you find you're doing everything in the house and the other person isn't contributing. Or it might be that you wait on your children hand and foot and they aren't doing any chores, they aren't contributing, they aren't developing that sense of independence and self. So this is one to really sit with and look at, because what I've found with copper clients is often their initial reaction is, oh, I do that. But what they mean often is, I do that when it's not too uncomfortable. I do that when there's no risk of upsetting someone. I do that when I know I'm going to get a good reaction from the other person. Often with copper, if you have a lot of natural copper energy in the mind, you'll want to avoid conflict. You'll want to keep everyone happy. So that may seem like a really lovely quality, but actually it leads to a lot of problems down the line. We know this, right? If you don't address problems in relationships, they end relationships. If, like say, if you wait on children hand and foot, they don't develop the skills they need for when they're older and they need to move out. And there's a lack of respect that's created. Or at work, we've all been in situations, right, where work can quite happily take advantage unless you set clear boundaries around what you're willing to do, what you're not willing to do. And here's the thing. If someone crosses that boundary, it's not oh, well, they crossed a boundary, there's nothing I can do about it. No. What's the consequence of that? What are you going to do about that? How are you going to hold that boundary with that person? Because if that boundary is crossed and you just, forget about it, move on, don't look at it, don't address it, then that boundary will continue to be crossed over and over and over again unless you do something about it. And there comes a point where, if you're in relationship with someone, or if you're in friendship with someone, or, whatever that situation is, and your boundaries are repeatedly being crossed, despite the fact that you're making them aware that actually that's not okay, then there comes a difficult decision, right? Around, what do I want to do about that? Where does my respect come from myself, right? So if I want people to respect my boundaries, I have to respect my boundaries first. How does that feel? I would love to know, if you're watching now or on replay, as you think about this, is that something you feel able to do? And like I say, this may be one to journal on. Like, what are the boundaries you want to have in place? What things are not acceptable for you? What actually are your needs? Because often copper hides our needs, because it's so focused on the other people. And then the next level, the advanced level, I've called it, which it's funny, to some of the dosha types, this sounds like well easy, but for a copper individual, it wouldn't. And that's saying yes to the healthy things that serve you, but not for any other reason than it's something that you desire, that it's just for you. So it doesn't have to be purposeful. It doesn't have to be generous. It doesn't have to be for any other reason than it's just your heart's desire. So that could be taking a solo holiday on your own just to, I don't know, go experience a certain part of the world, or go on that retreat that you've been thinking about doing, or going on that, I was going to say a walking holiday, but that's probably like Copper's worst. Like, probably that wouldn't be in your top 10 holidays. But it may not be a holiday. It might be going for a massage once a week. It could be signing up to that course that you've wanted to do. It could be taking time away just for the weekend. Go away, go stay in a spa, go, go pamper yourself for no other reason than it serves you. As I say these things, the Kappa people out there are likely to be thinking, so I'm just calling it out, oh yeah, but that's money we could be spending on the house. That's money I could be using for the kids. That's money I could be using for, something that my partner wants to do, or something that my husband wants to do, or my wife wants to do. This is about you prioritizing you. This is about you setting that signal to yourself that I'm worthy of these things. I am worthy of my time. I am worthy of my attention. I am worthy of my money, my energy. I'm allowed to do this, right? And this will start to build a new pattern, a new way of being, a new level of self-worth, a new level of just that self-care on every level. So, I would love someone to give me that, that direction in terms of what I need to do to sort myself out. Let me have a quick look at the comments. Louise should be lost without spell check. Yeah, I know. When I'm working in certain, I think Canva doesn't have spell check. I could be wrong about that. But often I do things really quickly and I type really quickly. And then afterwards I'll notice I've got 2 letters the wrong way around or something. Louise, setting boundaries was the first on your list of things that you wanted to implement in your life. It can be a tough one, right? Daily care is something you're aware you rarely do. The good thing about daily care is, like I say, it's not just the act of the daily care. It's the fact that you're signaling to yourself on a daily basis that I'm worthy of my time, attention, and, making space for that. So that kind of sets the tone. You set the tone for how you want to be treated. People will respond to how you treat yourself. So often we will say things like, oh, people don't treat me very well, or, people are nasty to me. But actually, whenever I have a client that has those sort of things, I'll say, yeah, but how are you treating yourself? What is the tone you are setting for other people? And I genuinely believe one of the best ways we can set that tone in a really positive way is having a daily practice that's just for you. No one else sets you up for the day. Louise, meditation, singing, pampering yourself are all things you'd love to do. I've lost myself in the shadows and need to take responsibility for your own happiness. I love to hear that. Gorgeous. That's beautiful. Hi, Sue. Gorgeous to have you with us. Hope you're having a gorgeous day. You love my inspirational ideas. Fabulous. I need to see my worth. Others see that I feel worthless, so treat me that way. And I know it's because of the vibe you put out. And that's the thing, right? We set the tone for the rest of the world. If we want to be seen in a certain way, we have to see ourselves in a certain way. If we want to be treated in a certain way, we have to treat ourselves that way. So often this is where, if you're not treating yourself with the respect that you want to see from other people, then people will walk all over you, right? So whether that's your boss or your partner or your kids, or, it just becomes this pattern because there's no boundaries set. Fran, so insightful to realize that the shadow energy of Kappa and Kappa Vata are more or less your natural state. You need to do something about it. We'll be coming on to Kappa Vata in a minute. So fabulous. what do I recommend for daily care? You missed the beginning. So lovely. We were just talking about this is for the Kapha ladies, and the mantra for the Kapha ladies is I alone am responsible for my own happiness. And so to begin with, the first stage would be daily self-care. And the thing is, that can be whatever you want it to be. But with Kapha energy, what I would certainly recommend is something that's a bit more invigorating. So that could be invigorating breath work, that could be an invigorating meditation, that could be chanting. Chanting is a beautiful way to shift Kapha energy out of the mind. It could be going for a walk, it could be dancing, singing, mindful movement, anything that allows you to lift that stagnancy. So moving on to Kapha Pitta. So if we think the Kapha Pitta, this is the activist. These are the people that are the change makers in the world. They're out there doing beautiful things for social equality and social justice and making sure that we live in a fair society. Not that I'm sure it can ever be truly fair for everyone, but they're out there trying to make that happen. But one of the main shadows of this is they can get so lost in the cause, so obsessed with their cause that they forget about themselves. So like that Kapha energy, but it's directed towards the cause. So the mantra for this is my needs matter too, and I see to them. So, even if you say that to yourself, you can feel a little bit of that fire coming through. My needs matter too, and I see to them. There's like I'm owning that. I'm responsible for that. I'm doing that. So in terms of a beginner practice for Kapha Pitta, I would certainly suggest daily self-inquiry practices. So things like meditation or journaling are really great ways that we can do this. So a way that we can identify our own mind's patterns. One of the things with Kapha Pitta is you can find that Pitta energy will run away from you. And so everything in the mind feels absolute. Everything in the mind feels true. Everything becomes black and white. So it becomes like, I've got to do this. I have to do this. And because of that, there's no kind of, there's no let up. And you have to be able to start seeing those patterns in your own head, the same phrases that will keep coming up, the same things that are drawing you back into that energy of your needs not being important. And I genuinely think the most effective way of doing this is through meditation. And when I say meditation, I don't mean listening to a guided meditation. In this context, for self-inquiry practice, you really need to be sitting with yourself in silence, which I know can feel super uncomfortable, especially if you've got a lot of negative self-talk that goes on, if you've got a really, you've got that Pitta energy as well. So your mind might feel like mine, with a sergeant major in the background, always shouting and screaming at you about everything you've got to do. But we have to sit through that. And when you can sit through that and find that space between, what I mean by space between, that space between, instead of there's a thought reaction, that there's a thought, that's interesting. So that thing that's witnessing the thought, once you really develop this witnesser part of you, this part of you that's really mindful of what's going on in your mind and not taking it all as gospel, then you can change that behavior. So self-inquiry practices like meditation and journaling are going to be super helpful for rewriting that, for helping you to start to become aware of where your mind is leading you astray, where it's pulling you off. Now, because you've got both the Kapha and Pitta energy, where Pitta can get obsessed about, this activist energy can turn into like obsession. And the Kapha energy can also be, I wouldn't use the word obsessed, but constantly looking after everyone. One of the things that gets dropped is you and your pleasure. So the next step is to find a hobby that is just for pleasure, not because you can make money off the back of it, not because, you can knit sweaters for your grandchildren, not because you want to make gifts for people. I know how your mind works, right? But just something you can do for the sheer pleasure of doing it. So that might be, it could be painting. And the other thing is, allow yourself to be rubbish at whatever this is. If you enjoy the practice of whatever it is, allow yourself to be rubbish at it. You don't have to be good. The point is to find pleasure in the experience. So it could be painting, it could be pottery. Pottery is something I love. I'm actually at pottery tonight and I look forward to it all week. I'm not very good, but I love it. I'm really mindful when I'm doing it, and I feel like a child playing with plasticine, even though it's clay. Do you know what I mean? It brings out that inner child in me. I've gone off topic as usual. It might be joining a sports team or learning a new sport. It might be sewing, knitting, crafting. Like I say, just be careful that you don't start doing things because then you can make things for other people. But just something that you just absolutely love to do. Now, often what will come up as I say this is, I don't have the time. It's rubbish. We've all got the time. We can all find the time. It's what you are doing, what you are prioritizing, right? How often do you waste time on your phone? How often do you, spend more time working than you should? How often are you saying yes to everyone else's needs instead of like taking a few hours a week to go do a hobby that really lights you up and you absolutely adore? And the more advanced practice here is the practice of non-attachment. And the reason being that if we think about those energies, Kapha can get really attached to other people's opinion of themselves. Pitta can get very attached to results. What's the outcome? How well am I doing? And because of that, it can be a very, the shadow side can be really strong here and really self-destructive, really self-critical. So exploring the idea of non-attachment, so non-attachment to feelings, non-attachment to thoughts, non-attachment. So if you haven't heard this concept before, it's not about not caring about anything. It's not about, not loving people or anything like that, but creating that space so you're not actually attached to things that, you're not putting A plus B together to equal C. So in a Pitta mind, let me give you an example. In a Pitta mind, what would often happen is, I haven't got the promotion at work, therefore I'm a failure, therefore I'm not worthy. I'm not good enough. I'm not enough. With a Kapha mind, it's likely to be, it can be really subtle in terms of like what the actual thing was, but it could be my relationship broke down, and then they'll attach some kind of meaning to that. My relationship broke down because I'm not good enough and I'm not enough. And so non-attachment, it allows you to separate those statements. So it allows you to realize that actually, just because my relationship broke down, it doesn't mean I'm not enough. Just because I didn't get the promotion, it doesn't mean I'm not enough. And although we know this, right, we know those things aren't correlated. in our minds, we can get carried away with these stories. We can put truth into them. We can believe they're 100% true. And then we will play out patterns to prove to ourselves that it's true. So our mind is a really clever thing in the respect of, if I tell my mind, or I feed into my mind that I am not worthy, or I'm not a good person, my mind will find not only evidence of why that's true, it will create like situations in the future to keep that story repeating. And so you see this a lot with like addicts, where they will have a story that I'm a bad person, I'm not a good person, I do bad things. And because of that story, their mind keeps reliving it, keeps putting them in situations where they can prove that they're right, because our minds are designed to prove us right. So in the same respect, we also get to create new stories that we get to prove ourselves right on. Positive stories, I'm worthy, I'm enough, I'm already perfect, I don't need to change. And those things, this is the irony, right? This is the paradox of self-care and self-love, is that actually through doing these practices, we realize we don't need anything. We realize we're already okay. We realize we already have everything we need. And when we're operating from that place, we'll be in our superpower and not in our shadow. I hope that makes sense. And I've put down there some recommended authors on this topic of non-attachment. So Tara Brach, Pema Chodron, absolutely love Pema Chodron. Anything she's written, I've adored. Jack Cornfield. So it's transformational. Let me just catch up on comments. Comments are coming through thick and fast today. I'm loving it. Louise, you're so hard on yourself, so why would I expect others not to be so? So true, right? And like I say, the example I gave yesterday, I can completely relate to that. Lovely. I've got a sergeant major mind if I'm not careful. Your worst enemy now is how exhausted you feel due to health issues, but you're aware you have to kick yourself up the butt. And if you're running on empty, hoping energy creates more energy, it does. And the other thing with copper, I'm like giving you loads of examples now, but the other thing with copper that I find really useful, I actually have a copper season playlist that I will play in the morning. So this is, that period of time, copper season, according to the Ayurvedic calendar, it's that late winter, early spring. But those long, dreary months, right? The grey months where it feels heavy and you don't want to do anything and your motivation's rock bottom. And, it's also the time where everyone tells us we should be on a new health kick because it's the beginning of the new year and all of that. So what I've got is a copper season playlist, which is just like high vibe, like music that fires me up, ready for the day ahead. So that can be another way that we can just add in something. So what you don't want to do is your self-care practices feel like a chore, because you won't get the medicine from them. Our self-care practices are something we get to do for us, right? They're something that should feel indulgent and magical, and a time where we just get to be. So be careful of your mindset going into these things. And if you need to, pull on other practices, pull on things like gratitude, pull on things like music, pull on essential oils, invigorating essential oils, whatever it is that gets that oomph going in you. And be mindful of that. Notice through your week, what are those times that you feel an oomph of inspiration or energy? It could be listening to a particular podcast. It could be listening to a particular coach. There's so many ways that we can do this. Yeah, I guess you didn't mean die, Lou. And when you're running on empty, yeah, no, I got what you meant. Don't worry. You're a different person when you sleep. Okay, you have terrible insomnia and massively affects your day after sleep. I want to start implementing daily night meditation. Hopefully that will help. I'm aware everything feels like climbing a mountain when exhausted. Yeah, and don't forget as well, our mind is a clever thing. Again, I know I'm saying this a lot today. The worst thing we can do if we're tired is to keep saying to myself, or keep saying to yourself, and I'm saying this from experience because I've noticed this with myself over the years. If I keep saying to myself, oh my God, I'm so tired. Oh, I'm so tired. I need to sleep. I need to sleep properly. Oh my God, I got no sleep last night. I'm so tired. I feel rubbish. So what I will consciously do is if I catch myself in that thought, I'm like, nope, not doing that. Not doing that thought. And I will say, I will implant a seed of something else. So it might be, I feel really excited today. I feel really excited that I get to do my meditation today. I feel really excited that I've got a workshop with gorgeous women. It may be, I'm super excited about talking to my client today. So even if it is, I'm, telling yourself, do you know what? I'm so excited about having that first cuppa this morning. It is going to taste amazing. Trick your mind. Your mind is a computer that you get to input into. Otherwise, it will start inputting into you. It's just a resource to use. Don't let it pull you around, is what I'm trying to say. And also you can use that technique in terms of going to sleep. So as you lay in bed thinking, do you know what? I'm going to have the best night's sleep tonight. I am going to sleep so soundly. I'm going to be like a baby and, really kind of feel into the feeling of that. Allow it to implant into your mind. Where did we get to? Fran, you really don't like those months. Yeah, they're long months in England, right? Because it seems to go on for like 9 months of the year. This year it certainly did, because we didn't really have much of a summer. So we are so influenced by the weather. We are so influenced by the elements. This is why we have to be so proactive. And, in Coaches of Ayurveda, we go into all the seasonal stuff, all of the different foods for the different types of seasons, but also the different foods for the different energies we're trying to create, as well as the herbs and the other practices and the lifestyle and the relationship. So if you want to know more, if you want to dive into more, make sure to look at Coaches of Ayurveda. But be quick, because we start in about 2 weeks' time. And this week, don't forget, there's 40% off. Where did I get to? Sarah, I know autumn is about releasing, which is why I'm drawn to autumn, spring. But I always find myself speeding up and super motivated this time of year. So this time of year is Vata time. So Vata time, what were we saying in the week? Vata, unable to sit still, right? Jumping from one thing to the next thing to the next thing. I have to be careful with myself this time of year not to start too many projects. Like, I can start 20,000 projects this time of year if I'm not careful. Louise, you love the motivation of listening to dance music. Upbeat music can really create an energy motivation. Yeah, do you know who I think? And it's not someone that I would particularly listen to that much, but during copper season, do you know the person? My daughter listens to her all the time. Lizzo, that's who it is. And whenever my daughter is really copper as well, my oldest daughter, and she always listens to like quite upbeat music, whereas I tend not to. Most of the time I tend to like the deep, heart, soul-wrenching music, whereas she likes the really upbeat stuff. But Lizzo, I think like her stuff has got like that copper oomph. It's got an invigorating oomph for copper. Just my opinion. Louise, you always say in your head, I'm so tired, I'm so tired. Yeah. Yeah, and here's the thing, I'm not saying you don't feel tired, lovely. It's just we make ourselves feel worse, right? It's like if you've ever been ill, like if you've got a cold or something, and you're in that moping energy of, oh my God, I got a virus, I feel so poorly. We feel 10 times worse. We feel so much worse when we do that. And that's not to say you shouldn't rest and take care of yourself and, not try and overdo things, but our mind is super powerful. This is why placebos work. This is why, they've done so many studies on the mind that are just unbelievable in terms of the results that can happen when we think a particular thought or when we're given a particular belief and how that becomes real. And in my view, this is why manifesting works, because if you say to yourself, I'm going to attract love and this is the person and this is the qualities that they're going to have, what your mind does is decide, well, that's true. And then your actions will lead to that situation. So your mind will come up with ways that you can meet that sort of person and find that person in your life. So the mind is honestly the most powerful resource that you have available to you. Don't underestimate it, is what I'm trying to say. Sarah, you freeze when you're in overwhelm and you do start things without finishing them. Hugely working on this. Yeah, that's Vata lovely. It just pulls us around if we're not careful. And you love the deep heart, soul music and films. Beautiful. Louise, you really worked on the language you use when talking to yourself. Yeah, it makes such a difference. Such a difference. It's something that if you can be aware, just even like the words that you use. So like, I try not to say that I need a cup of coffee or I need something, because then I become attached to it, right? Like I'm not me without that thing. So sometimes it's like the subtle shift in language. So I say, oh, I'm indulging in a cup of coffee. I don't need it. I'm indulging in it. That feels a lot better. You're aware you definitely surrender to the exhaustion and it's all consuming at times. I definitely want to look into manifesting. And I'd be careful of your word surrender as well, because what am I trying to say here? I would say surrender is slightly different to giving in. So I would term it in your head is, I'm not giving in. Because actually, to a certain degree, there's certain things we do want to surrender. I would see surrender as more of a positive way of dealing with it. So you're not giving into it. Sarah, you write positive sentences and stick them up around every room and the car dashboard. It's powerful, amazing. I love that. Yeah, honestly, those little practices that theoretically shouldn't make a difference make a huge difference, because you're constantly rewiring the grooves in your brain, your samsara, or your neuro pathways, we call it in the West. So I need to hurry up. I'm taking ages today, ladies. I hope you got time. So Kaphavata, the artist, the mantra is, my emotions do not define me. I do. So if we remember the artist or the people that are the artist, are the people that feel deeply, right? They have that, they experience the world on a very deep level. And because you've got that pull of the deepness of Kapha and that sensitivity of Vata. So in that shadow state, they can find that they just want to escape the world. They want to run away. They want to hide away. That anxiety and overwhelm can overtake them. So one of the main things that we need to be thinking about is our energy practices for our Kapha. So daily energy hygiene practices. So energy meditations. Breath work is a beautiful practice for working with the emotions. So breathing into your emotions, allowing them to disperse. There's many different forms of breath work, but particularly pay attention to the ones that work in conjunction with the emotions, that allow you to process the emotions, that allow you to process trauma. Chanting is another great way that we can shift energy blocks in our system, any stagnancy in the system. So I'm not saying you have to do all of these things, by the way, just to make it clear. These are just examples of what you may want to do. Taking time to ground every day. So whether that's, walking barefoot in the grass or barefoot on the beach, it could be grounding, like meditations where you're in visualizing like roots coming out at the base of your spine and coming down into Mother Earth and feeling that grounded energy running through your body. Allow that grounded energy to be soaked up into your system. It could be a practice of Reiki. If you're not trained in Reiki, then go see a Reiki practitioner, go have a Reiki treatment. They're amazing. And especially if you're a Kapha type, it can help shift some of that emotional energy that's being held within you, unable to move through. Energy medicine. So, Reiki is a form of energy medicine, but other energy practices are available. The other thing I would say actually on this is giving yourself permission to release the emotion in the way that feels most natural. So what I mean by this is sometimes we'll need a cry. You can feel that welling up of emotion and you just need to cry. But because of how we've been brought up in society, it's like, push that down. I'm not going to cry. It's okay. No, go have a cry, right? Get that energy out of your system. It needs to be removed from your system, and crying is a natural way that we do that. It may be probably less for Kapha types, but for me, as a Pitta type, it might be going to scream in a pillow. It might be, I need to get this frustration out. And one of the ways that we naturally want to do this, right? I was the tantruming toddler that, I remember my mum saying to me, "Oh, you're not allowed to do that." But actually, my body needs to release that energy. So sometimes I go in the bedroom, grab a pillow, scream into it. I feel better now. It's released. It could be, what other things could it be? Stamping your feet, shaking your body. If you're anxious, shaking your body is a great one. We see this a lot in nature. So you'll see that if an animal has been running away from a predator, another animal that's chasing them, and it gets away, once it's safe, it will begin to shake. And that's to release that energy from their system. So that is a beautiful way that we can bring that body back to a place of equilibrium, to a place of stability. The next step for Kapha is cleansing the emotional baggage. And I think out of all of the archetypes, this is probably most important for Kapha types because they hold and experience things so deeply. So, get a coach, go to counseling, have hypnotherapy. When I say hypnotherapy, I'm not talking about like hypnotherapy to go over a fear of heights, but you can have like hypnotherapy in terms of to address like childhood wounds, or to figure out why you feel anxious, or to figure out why you have no confidence, or to figure out why you've got no self-worth, and then reprogram the brain. Practices like somatic experiencing, where you're experiencing those feelings in your body, you're allowing them to move through as you think about those memories. What I would say though is, because you feel so deeply, I would work with someone on this, right, if you can. So a therapist or a counselor or a coach, or someone that can hold you in that space and help you release that emotional baggage. And the most advanced element of this would be to master your energy. And I sat here for ages thinking, what other ways can you do it other than things like Reiki training, energy healing training, or energy medicine training? And I got a bit stumped, if I'm honest. So mastering your energy, what I mean is devour everything you can about emotions, energy, learning to work with it, learning to play with the nuances of energy, like Ayurveda, right? Where we're actively choosing different states of energy through the food that we eat, through the lifestyle that we're living, through the exercise we're choosing. So find a practice that will allow you to master your energy and the subtleties, because you are going to be super sensitive to the subtleties of energy compared to other people. And that's a beautiful thing. That is a really beautiful thing. Although I know myself, being sensitive to energy also feels a little bit like there's something wrong with you, a little bit like you're crazy. And normal things, I say normal things, like things for me, like supermarkets or noise. Noise is a big thing for me. I was telling my coaches Ayurveda today that I've got like this water filter, what do you call it, water diffuser, which I tend to have on in Vata season because it can get quite dry in Vata season. And I had to turn it off just because the noise, there was like a little hum in the background that was driving me insane. So, yeah, master your energy. Okay, I'm just going to check back in. Oh, comments. How are we doing? Right, let's have a look. Emotions are there to be felt. It's a beautiful release. Yeah, completely. I know, I find it odd that we live in a society that tells us not to release our emotions, right? It's the most natural thing in the world. You struggle with white noise, drives you nuts. Yeah, me too. I can't bear the sound of like washing machine, tumble dryer, any kind of electrical hum. Yeah. Okay, Vata ladies, on to you. So your mantra, let me just check. I did say the mantra for that one. Yep. So your mantra is, in stillness, I discover who I truly am. So Vata, the adventurer, when in the shadow, unable to sit still, unable to stick to one thing, being pulled around from one thing to the next thing to the next thing, never completing things. So this mantra is about bringing you back to that place of peace, bringing you back to that place of stillness. So in stillness, I discover who I truly am. So the beginning practice, and this serves us on a number of different levels, especially, you know, if you've got a lot of Vata going on, but daily self-massage. And that might sound a bit strange. There's a number of reasons that this works for Vata. Vata, first of all, can be quite cool. What I mean is, you're likely to feel the cold if you have a lot of Vata in your body. Often there's a correlation between the Vata and the mind. Sometimes it's a little bit different, but, you know, unless you're going through something like perimenopause or menopause and experiencing a lot of hot flushes. But as a general, Vata tends to be quite cool. They tend to feel the cold first. So nourishing your body with warm sesame oil, giving yourself a really slow, mindful massage, paying attention to your body and your sensations. This will do a number of different things, but first and foremost, it gets the energy out of the head and into the body, allows you to feel more grounded. We're also creating an additional barrier between you and the world. So, like I say, with Vata, we can find that overwhelm takes over, anxiety takes over, those kind of fearful emotions can take over. And psychologically, this oil is creating a barrier between you and the world. And, you may think that seems strange, but it genuinely works. That feeling of feeling nourished, that feeling of there's something between me and the outside world. And it also slows the Vata mind down. If we're slowly and mindfully paying attention to our body and the sensations, then it allows that nervous system to go, take that deep breath. It allows the nervous system to start to calm down. This also has the additional benefit of Vata, like I say, can create a lot of dryness in the body, including the skin. So this actually nourishes the skin. It will create, a beautiful, nourished skin. It feeds the skin, sesame oil. It's one of the richest oils that you can use for the skin. But warm it up before applying, because it makes all the difference. It won't necessarily be absorbed as well if you use it cold, and it won't be as pleasant, if I'm honest. The next step is to look at daily mindful movement. The key word here is mindful. Vata is great at movement, right? Vata can move all day long. But if we can make that movement a little bit more mindful, then actually you're going to start seeing a slowing down, again, a slowing down of those thoughts. They feel less overwhelming. The nervous system feels a little bit more in control. So whether that's yoga, Tai Chi, Qigong, it could also be mindful walking. I wouldn't recommend mindful running, just because of the energetics behind that. But this is slow, mindful movement. So if you're doing yoga, I wouldn't recommend something like hot yoga or anything where you're moving. You can do Ashtanga yoga, but perhaps keep the pace quite slow as you're practicing, as opposed to, quick, energetic moves. This isn't like a dance flow. This is about paying attention to your body as you're moving. And it's amazing how something so simple can really help the Vata mind. The next one is mastering stillness. Now, often this could be a Vata mind's worst fear, right? So having a daily meditation practice, and again, I'm going to say it, not recorded meditations, not guided meditations, but a proper, I'm sorry, I don't mean to say that, guided meditations aren't proper. Many of you know, I produce many guided meditations. But a meditation practice that allows you to access that stillness within, but also have it supported by a framework. Because it's really important that as we're going through our meditation practice, we will notice different things. We will experience different things. We will have different insights. We will discover different patterns in our mind. We will discover different feelings on a spiritual level. And we may have spiritual obstacles to overcome in our meditation practice. As such, I would highly recommend that you support your meditation practice with a framework. So Many of you know my meditation practice is fundamentally supported by Buddhist philosophy. I'm not Buddhist. I'm not. I'm not committed to be a Buddhist. I follow many paths, but Buddhist philosophy just makes so much sense, right? And you don't have to be what you consider to be, joining religion or anything like that. I know, there's Christian priests that practice Buddhist meditation. There's people across the world that wouldn't consider themselves Buddhist that follow Buddhist philosophy. So I would highly recommend Buddhist philosophy. Other frameworks is the Reiki framework. If we think about the Reiki precepts, the Gokai, that framework that helps us to come back to a set value system, a set of way of being, that can completely support our meditation practice and anything that's coming up for us in that practice. If you don't want anything that's got a spiritual connection, then have a look at the latest psychology. There's so many branches of psychology now that we can dive into, so many interesting forms of psychology that are coming out. So you might be interested in like the neuroscience side, you might be interested in the epigenetic side, you might be, in the humanistic side. There's so many different forms of psychology. Many of you know psychology is a huge passion of mine. It was a huge passion of mine before I even discovered meditation, Reiki, and Ayurveda. But what I found, just to share my experience, so I trained a lot in psychology through for my corporate role. And when I discovered Buddhism and Vedic philosophy, I found it pretty much told us the same stuff, except they knew more. And that was my experience, was they've been telling us this for 5,000 years, and it's only through psychology that we're starting to be able to prove it. So now it's real. Do you see what I mean? So that's my experience. Okay, Vata Kapha we have touched on. Vata Pitta. Oh, this is a difficult one. I'm saying that because I kind of fit into this camp a bit. So the mantra for the teachers, so the teachers that, in their superpowers are, they have a love of wisdom, a love of knowledge, and they love sharing that with the world. The problem is they can fall into the course collecting mentality, right? I've bought this course, I've bought this course, I've bought this course, and don't implement any of it. And I just hold my hands up here. I was telling my coach Ayurveda today that I think I've got 5 courses that I'm doing at the moment. And I've had to say to myself, Holly, you are not buying any more courses until you've at least completed 2 of the ones you've got. Just because there's so much I want to learn. There's just so much that I'm interested in, so much I want to know more about, that I can so fall into this. So one of the big things, or the mantra that I chose, is true wisdom is experienced, not studied. And I can't tell you how much I know that to be true. And this is where meditation for me has been the biggest teacher, that actually all the wisdom we could possibly need is inside all of us. And we just get to experience that within. I've gone on to meditation, but actually, let's start at the beginning. So the beginning, again, it's slowing that Vata down. And one of the best ways we can do it is through not fighting the movement side, but making it mindful. So implementing daily yoga or qigong or tai chi, those kind of energy or mindful practices that still allows the body to move, but we can use the mind at the same time. So because we're using the mind, we're able to be more mindful of the patterns, we're more mindful of our stories, we're mindful of what we're telling ourselves. So like we can see this in, like, you go to do a yoga pose and you start to see the mind going, oh my God, this is going to hurt. Or, oh my God, I don't know if I can stay here much longer. And when you can start to challenge that mind, when you can start to go, I'm not sure that's true, then you see this growth in self. You see this growth of, oh, well, if that's not true, what else might not be true that my mind's telling me? What else can I challenge? What else can I, debunk? So all those times I tell myself I'm disorganized, or I can't stick to a routine, or, I'm rubbish at that thing, or I've got no confidence, or I'm unable to speak in front of people, how much of that might be not true? And actually, I could just decide for it not to be true and choose something else. So, something as simple as mindful movement can lead us down that path. The other thing for Vata Pitta is routines are key. So establishing routines, going to sleep at the same time every night, having a nighttime and morning routine, eating at the same time every day. These things not only mean that, you get enough sleep, you're getting the nourishment into your body, which often can get missed, especially with Pitta as well. You bring Vata and Pitta together and, often they never want to stop. So not only are you making sure you're having your meals and you're getting enough sleep, which can feel very challenging for Vata Pitta types, you're telling your nervous system you are safe. You know what's coming next. You have that ability, you have that internal knowing that routine is going to happen. And because that routine is going to happen, you know what's coming next. You don't have to go into what ifs, that anxiety state, that fear state, what's coming next. So giving yourself the support of routines will absolutely transform how you feel. And, something so simple can make such a huge difference. Huge, huge difference. And again, with Vata Pitta, mastering the mind and spiritual growth. The truth is, if you are Vata Pitta, you are likely to be interested in the spiritual. You are likely to be fascinated by most things. And the spiritual is probably one of the biggest topics we get to learn about, right? So one of the things is we get to use this. We get to use our love of wisdom, our love of exploring, our love of adventure into a way that will really serve us. So turn that inward, use that to really strengthen a practice. So, and I would suggest a full practice, because what we can do is with Vata and Pitta, mainly Vata, we want a bit of that, bit of that, bit of that, dabble in that, dabble in that, dabble in that, dabble in that. And then we feel confused, right? It's like, what am I doing? What philosophy is this about? And how does that fit together? Or does it make sense? Or so try and find something that's just at the core of what you do. So for me, that's Buddhism. Buddhist Dharma has never led me wrong. For you, it could be, like, say, Vedic philosophy. It could be Reiki. It could be shamanism. It could be any kind of framework or spiritual system or spiritual understanding that will stop you finding that your spiritual growth and that ability to observe the mind and understand the ego, it puts sense to that. It makes sense. It allows it to be something that's not just turned into another form of overwhelm. Is that making sense? I hope so. Let me just check in with the comments. Let me see. Where have I got to? Sue, I think that's you. You struggle with supermarkets too. Yeah, they're a nightmare, aren't they? Fran, you love grounding and clearing practices. You've lapsed lately and need to keep it up, especially self-Reiki. You can't beat self-Reiki, right? Beautiful practice. Oh, bear with me. My computer's doing something weird. There we go. Sarah, you're always cold, even during menopause. It's the Vata. Would I self-massage AM or PM? AM. So from an Ayurvedic perspective, what we would do is you have a warm, what an amazing way to start your day, right? Okay. So a warm massage, you massage your body, and you normally leave the oil on for like 20 minutes and then have a shower, and it just showers off any excess. You don't need any shower gel or anything like that because it just gets absorbed into the skin. And so what I tend to do is do the self-massage, and then that's when I do my meditation practice. So sat there feeling gorgeously gooey with oil, and then go have a shower. And this is the perfect time of year to start your self-massage. It is such a good practice for Vata, and as we're in Vata season, it is perfect. Qigong, you love Qigong. I'm not sure what that was that you struggled with. These practices are the ones that I'm most drawn to. Is it because of my slow copper energy, or because my Vata knows what I need? So Fran, the Vata, it depends. So it depends. Sorry, I don't know which ones you were referring to specifically. Was it about the energy practices? I suspect it might be. So it could be. It could be that you've got actually quite a lot of Vata, in which case that you will be drawn to those kind of energetic practices or the spiritual practices. What it could also be, and check in with this because, you know, only you will know if this is true or not, but our copper can trick us into thinking, oh, I'll do this because it means I get to sit still. I get to lay down. Whereas actually what the medicine copper needs is movement. So I don't know if that's true for you or not, but something to check in on. Do animals fall into these too? Yeah, they do. Makes perfect sense. I can only find toasted sesame oil. Is that okay? No. Yeah, don't use toasted sesame oil. Places that you can buy sesame oil, you can have a look at Ayurvedic shops online. You could have a look at Amazon. You can look at Holland and Barrett. Any of those kind of local shops sometimes have them. We've got a gorgeous lady, like Thai lady that lives round from us, who makes like gorgeous homemade oils and things. So, you know, I tend to get mine from her. If I can't do that, I tend to use Essential Ayurveda has oils. I'm trying to think who else I use. I think that's it. Holland and Barrett, I think, will have sesame oil. Maybe Boots, but I could be pushing it there. I don't know. I've never tried Boots. Is that the same oil for pulling mouth? Potentially. It depends. It depends. Bear in mind, we've only done an assessment for your mind, right? So your body could be in a different state. So if your body is in a different state, then I would recommend a different oil potentially for mouth pulling. So if you have more pitta in the body, so more inflammation, heated, rashes, sensitivity, anything that's feeling quite angry in the body, I would use something that's more cooling, like a coconut oil. If you have more kapha type symptoms, then I probably wouldn't use a sesame, because sesame is quite thick and coating, and actually with kapha we tend not to need that so much. So I would probably use more like a coconut. So your body's more vata. Yeah, you can use sesame oil for mouth pulling. I know, it's a wonder that we get anything done with all of our beautiful practices, right? Okay, and last but not least, I think we've got pitta left to go. And thank you for bearing with me, ladies. I know I've run over on time, but I'm hoping this is useful for you. So the mantra, did I say the mantra for the last one? Can I just check? Yeah, I did. So the mantra for pitta is, my worth is not determined by my results. That is likely to feel a little bit icky at first. Like all of the mantras, they're likely to feel a little bit oof. But you say it enough, you start to believe it, you act accordingly, and then you'll have evidence to prove it. So first and foremost, when it comes to pitta, it's taking time to de-stress daily. So that might be breath work, meditation, chanting, walks in nature, mindful movement, nighttime routines, morning routines, whatever it is for you. The thing is, the pitta mind loves stress, right? It loves it. It will find it. It will feed it. It will create more opportunities for it. It will tell you that you haven't got time to meditate because you've got all of these things to do. And if you don't do them, you're a big failure. So it is super important that we actually take time to de-stress, to break that pattern, to break the cycle, because it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger otherwise, and turns into your natural state of being, which we don't want. We know that stress kills. We know there's links to cancer. We know that stress is, affects the heart. It affects the mind. It affects relationships. It affects everything. But the truth is, unless you look after yourself, you're not going to be able to do what you need to do properly anyway. So de-stressing daily. Can you tell I'm talking to myself as much as everyone else? The next thing for pitta, right? When we're in our shadow side of pitta, everything feels serious. Everything feels urgent. Everything feels like a priority. Everything feels like a life or death situation. So we need to counteract this. And one of the ways to do this is to indulge our inner child. So make time to play. Allow yourself to be terrible at something. This will feel just so counterintuitive to pitta at the beginning, because they'll want to be amazing. Like, pitta people like to be good at things, right? And we tend to work hard and hard and hard until we are. But this is not about that. This isn't about perfecting something. This isn't about, gaining some amazing skill. This is about being silly, going for an ice cream, playing in the sea, going skating, dance, sing, draw, create, do something new. And it gets to be terrible. It gets to be rubbish. You get to be awful at it. And that is half the fun. So, I'll tell you some of the things that, most of I live in the sea as much as I can. We've got paddle boards. We do like, oh my God, my brain's not working today. What do you call it? Bodyboarding in the winter. Bodyboarding is great fun. Like, honestly, that probably brings out my inner child more than paddleboarding, just because I feel like a kid that really was playing in the sea. My husband and I bought skates. We've got roller skates. He is so much better than me, which really annoys me, but I have to let it go. And the good thing is, I've got kids at home, and I think kids keep that perspective of fun there. Do you know what I mean? Kids can be really good at pulling you back. But if I'm not careful, I can go into that kind of serious energy. So I will also make a point of, like, if I'm watching something on TV, I like to prioritize things that are either, unsurprisingly, educational or are just funny, and I'm going to be able to laugh, or just make me smile. So, for example, my husband nipped back for like a late lunch. We had a late lunch together, and we watched. Has anyone watched like the latest season of Wrexham? Which is, I don't know if you've seen it, but these I can't remember their names. Ryan Reynolds, don't know who the other guy is, but they bought Wrexham Football Club, and it's like how the town has completely transformed. And I just sat there going, God, this is amazing, right? It's like the little town of Wrexham has become this like Hollywood hotspot now, and people are visiting from all over the world. They have people on there from like, people had come from Brazil, Australia to come see Wrexham football team. And I was just sat there smiling and just thinking how ridiculously amazing it was. So things that are going to bring out that inner child spirit for you are going to be super helpful. And advanced is mastering the mind and emotions. The thing is, with all of us, what we aim to get to is to a place where our mind is not pulling us around. We are telling our mind what it is we need to do, and it's figuring it out. And then we're not getting caught up in the stories of we're not enough, or we haven't got this, or we're rubbish at that, or I constantly do this, or, all of these things that we tell ourselves. We start to become the controller of that. We start to say, well, no, that's not what I'm choosing to believe. That's not the story I want to buy into. And the same with our emotions, right? When we develop things like that space in meditation that we're cultivating, we realize we can sit with the emotions, and, we don't have to react because we're frustrated. We don't have to get impatient with that person. We've got more compassion. We are in that state where, instead of the emotions being this thing that we get sucked into, they're just transient clouds that move through us. So that's the advanced practice. Right, let me come back to you. I'm going to stop sharing that. Let me stop sharing that so I can see you properly. So what I would love to know is, what's one thing you're going to start doing now? One thing, just one thing that was on the list that correlates to your mind. Louise, yes, lovely. You can link to a website. That's fab. So what's one thing you can do now for your doshic mind type that will allow you to move out of that shadow, just a step further out of the shadow, or a step further into the superpower? I would love to know. And what I would say, we're all going to have different ways of doing this, right? According to our archetype. Those with a lot of pitta, we are likely to do this, and it is self-destructive. Do not do it, please, because it will set you up to fail. We're likely to look at that list and go, I'm doing it all, and I'm doing it all perfect, and I'm going to do it every single day. And then by day 3, we've dropped at least one practice, maybe 2. By day 4, we've probably dropped them all. And then we're in this self-loathing cycle of how rubbish we are that we couldn't stick to it. Or we're doing it, but from a place of perfectionism, and we're not getting the benefit from it. And we're coming at it from a tick box exercise, rather than, this is my medicine. This is the medicine I get to receive. Vata the ladies that have got a lot of vata, you are likely wanting to rebel against anything that's daily, anything that's routine, anything that involves doing the same thing day in, day out. Allow yourself to move past that, because honestly, the medicine you will receive from the consistency is just as important as the medicine you will receive from the thing that you're doing. So yeah, challenge yourself. Tell yourself a new story about your ability to do things day in, day out, to stick to a routine, that you trust yourself. You know you can do this. Kapha. So it depends. It depends with kapha. Kapha, it's funny. Kapha can do a number of different things. I had a client who is heavily kapha, and she would do the things because I've told her to do them, and she didn't want to let me down. And because of that, like this kapha need to please, I can remember at one point later down the line, I said, can we just try something? And she said, what? And I said, I'm going to give you some homework this week. But I want you to see if you can resist doing it. Just because we don't want to let other people down in that kapha energy, right? So you're going to need something to hold you accountable with this. You're going to need someone to hold you accountable. So perhaps you do it with someone. Perhaps you tell your kids you're doing this, and you don't want to let them down. You don't want to see them disappointed. I know from my kapha client, the changes she made was for her grandchildren. That was her biggest motivator, was to get healthy and fit and, you know, improve her vitality for her grandchildren. So use that vata mentality to keep you on track. Not vata, kapha. Sarah, you wouldn't have thought of the warm oil massage in the morning and not using soap to rinse off. Yeah, it's a beautiful practice. And it's amazing how quick, actually, it just soaks into the skin. From an Ayurvedic perspective, that oil actually draws out the toxins from your skin. So as you shower it off, you're also releasing toxins. You're letting go of, you know, the toxins that we absorb from our air, from the products we use on our skin, from the products, the food that we're eating. You know, if you think even, you know, organic fruit and veg tends to have trace elements of pesticides, not to mention what's in our water and all of these things. You can drive yourself insane. You know, even the fire retardants that are in your sofa and your curtains, those sort of things, we absorb. It's all toxins that we're constantly absorbing. Your clothes, another one. So we need a way to release these toxins. We need to find a way to let them out. And this is also why this time of year in Ayurveda, we go through a cleanse process, a way to kind of restart the body, find that oomph again. Sometimes you do the belly button oil practice. Beautiful, lovely. Now you get to take it a stage further, do the whole body, go for it. Okay, lovelies. So I did say to you, I was thinking about doing a masterclass, just so we can take this a little bit deeper. So I was thinking next week, I'm saying that and I'm wondering if I should look at my diary before I say this, because have I checked my diary? I was talking to someone earlier, they were like, I couldn't see any spaces in your diary. I was like, let me just double check. I was thinking next Monday. Yeah, no, potentially. We could do 10 o'clock Monday morning. Let me know if that sounds good to you. I will set up some masterclass details so that you can join. That will be held via Zoom, not in here, because I want us to have the opportunity to really discuss this on the next level. I'll also be sharing a little bit about how this fits into the rest of the model of Ayurveda, and what that all looks like, so that you can take as much medicine as possible from working with this energy. You can take as much wisdom from Ayurveda as possible to help you rebalance the body, rebalance the mind, rebalance the system. Yeah, with castor oil. Yeah, castor oil is a fabulous oil for many different things. We use castor oil a lot in Ayurveda for different practices, and it's very good at drawing out toxins, but also very good at so quick tip, if you struggle with cramping, so cramping like period cramps or anything like that, soak a flannel in castor oil, lay it across your belly, lay down, do some meditation, do something nice, listen to a sound bath or whatever you want to do. And actually it eases it almost immediately. So yeah, it helps release. It helps the body release. It's a releaser. Louise, every night to do bedtime meditation to help your insomnia. Hopefully better sleep means more energy. Fabulous. And remember, even if you don't get a good night's sleep, telling yourself, I feel amazing today. I've got so much energy. I am, and it may feel stupid at first, right? You might feel like I'm just lying to myself. I feel silly. Why am I saying this? Try it. Just try it for a week and notice if you see any difference. And do it really kind of purposefully, like you genuinely believe it. Monday be fine. Fabulous, Fran. Okay, let me make a note of that because I will forget. What did I say? 10 a.m. Monday. Fab. I will get that set up. In the meantime, ladies, you've got this, Lou. You can do it. In the meantime, do not forget this week there is 40% off all of the certified trainings because we are celebrating 4 years of this group running, and the immense pleasure it's been to get to know you all and to run these events. And do you know what? I feel like I know some of you really well, despite the fact that we've never really been in a room together. We've never really had a chat outside of the Facebook group, but I feel like I really know you. So I just wanted to say a huge thank you. It's such a pleasure having all of you in this community. You are what makes, and I just feel so, so grateful to do what I get to do every day. And I would love to have you in a certified training and get to know you better, get to know more about you and your superpowers and how I can help and support you. But for now, I'm going to love you and leave you. If you want, that's what I meant to say. If you want the discount code for the 40% off, message me. I might email it out tonight, actually, just to make it easy for everyone. If you're not on my mailing list, you may want to message me because you won't get the email. You are so welcome, lovelies. It is such a pleasure to see you all. And, I'm predominantly Pitta, but I've got a fair bit of Vata. So I love this, right? I love this. I'm happy. I'm happy when I'm doing this. And it's, such a pleasure to talk to you all. So you are very, very welcome. And thank you for your kind words. I appreciate it. All right. I better go. I can hear Luna getting a bit stroppy in the other room. Oh, yeah. Our dog, our pup, who's not looking like a pup anymore. She's quite big now. But have a gorgeous evening. Enjoy the rest of your week. I look forward to seeing you next week. I will post the details of the masterclass. I will email with the coupon code. If you don't get emails from me because you're not on the mailing list, send me a message and I can send you the coupon code that way. Otherwise, I look forward to seeing you soon. Take care. Bye. If I can end the stream. There we go.